We're the Church of Korihor. We're a spiritual community for godless people who have our own space agency, sort of. We're working on the space agency. Why does a church need a space agency? Well, we're a spiritual community for godless people. Godless people care about the world because we're good people and no other reason. And this is Non-Zero Chance. Today, we got to talk about how NASA is no longer a priority in our government's spending, and how that may be a little more complicated than they're letting on. It's important to us because we're very concerned about the possible delayed or even canceled launch of the Surveyor system, the Surveyor probe that is supposed to help to guard against satellites, near-Earth objects. Over the course of the past few weeks, even, we have seen big space rocks flying at Earth that we had no idea were that close until it was almost certainly too late to do anything about it. Now, the government, NASA, has a plan for how to track these near-Earth objects so that they don't cause terrible harm to the American people, including and to the people of the world. We don't know if they're going to cancel it, but right now it's not looking great. This earlier this week, you may have seen on the news that the current Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, who moonlights as the administrator of NASA for now, probably forever, and was actually called out by Congress, a Congress controlled by his own party, a Congress he himself had served in as a Republican, called him out to say, if you enact these changes, it will cause irreparable harm to the people of the world, by the way, by cutting the budget on some of these key programs that are going to have to be done. Well, it turns out earlier this week that Sean Duffy announced that NASA was getting out of the climate business. No more climate science. In fact, he has said that as of now, NASA's only scientific ambitions are missions related to the moon missions, going to the moon, so that's the Artemis missions, and going to Mars, which is still kind of out there, that this is even a priority. But of course, it's a long-term goal of certain operatives, certain actors in the world. And so if it doesn't have to do with getting to the moon or getting to Mars, it's canceled, basically, is the warning. And that is extremely bad news, especially for us, those of us who are concerned about giant space rocks landing on planet Earth, which they do more frequently than you think, and which NASA was taking the lead on, on preventing. Fortunately for us, the Chinese government apparently is now more interested in defending from Earth asteroids ever since ALMA appeared. Those of you who are frequenters of the show know that we at the Church of Korihor have renamed an asteroid that is known to NASA as 2024 YR4, and proof that maybe NASA shouldn't name all of its things. We have renamed it ALMA. If you don't know who ALMA is, well, we'll get to talking about it. But we have to talk about things that have got me down today. One of myriad things that have got me down today. And at the same time, I want to share with you some bright, hopeful things that I've been looking into and doing in connection with the ordained clergy of the Church of Korihor and the future, and looking to the future. And so don't go thinking we do all doom and gloom. Generally, these episodes, we play it up as all doom and gloom, and then we just wind up having some fun because it's Friday, and I don't know, because we need to, just so that they don't get you down. Then we're going to listen to Sean Duffy rant in the most hilarious way. But there's some very interesting information ahead for you. Once again, I remind you that it is very, 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 very improbable, very unlikely, yeah, even very, very much near impossible that the Church of Korihor will save the world. But our chances are not zero.
From empty pews to reasoned thought, we'll defend our pale blue dot. If the danger's great, but the odds are small, we Korihors will heed the call. True saviors, but not from sin. We have no hope but what's within. We were not born to be heroes. Our chances small, but never zero. Non-zero chance. Take to the sky against all odds. We will fly. Count us down. Our last advance. This is our non-zero chance. Fueled by hope, reach for the stars. Prometheus fire within our hearts. Though we may be the unlikely crew, in one another our trust renews. Non-zero chance. Take to the sky against all odds. We will fly. Count us down. Our last advance. This is our non-zero
I've said it before, I'll say it again. A good portion of the reason why people love the Church of Korihor is our amazing music. Hey, you gotta love it. Let me introduce you guys to something here before we get going on watching some videos and things. Let's look at a picture, those of you who are able to look at a picture. I want to tell you about a remarkable feat of human achievement. This is called OCO2. Once again, sometimes we just ought to rethink whether or not we should let NASA name its own shit. This beautiful piece of equipment is called OCO2. OCO stands for Orbital Carbon Observatory. And I want to tell you a little bit about the story of this remarkable thing. But before I get into the story of this incredible piece of equipment, what you need to know is this. Ever since Sean Duffy was effectively ordered or told, invited by President Donald Trump, illustrious, beautiful, the most magnificent, the most excellent, the most dear leader, Donald Trump, he had been tapped. He had been double tapped. He had been quadruple tapped to become not only the Secretary of Transportation, but of course, because that leaves him plenty of oodles of overtime available, also to moonlight as the acting administrator of NASA. When he was tapped to be the acting administrator of NASA, granted, a man who has no degrees in science, no degree in engineering, has no, as far as anybody can tell, no real comprehension of either space travel or aeronautical technology of any kind. He is a guy who was a reality TV person, so Donald Trump loves him. We don't know that's why. Well, there are lots of reasons why. I'm sure there are lots of reasons why. Anyways, when he was tapped to become acting administrator of NASA, uh, little pieces of emails and of communications started to leak to the press and circulate around in the Beltway that he had already begun warning people even before the passage of the big beautiful bill that cut NASA's budget in half, that these budgets were coming. And when the budgets get here, we need to have action plans in place for how we would scale back non-essential missions and start paring down on various missions. And one of the missions that he apparently specifically called out to a team to invite them to scale down, how they could scale down, which, by the way, this ultimately led to over 2,000 employees at NASA just volunteering. I'll tell you what will happen. I'll quit so you don't have to pay me. Keep the mission running. I'll quit so you don't have to pay me my salary. That's where it was. That's what it came down to. 2,000 people plus. And then I will remind you that there was a Voyager document signed just last month in which 300 former and current NASA employees wrote and published through an independent foundation an official document declaring how dangerous it was to cut NASA's budget back and cut back these essential missions. So one of the groups that was told to come up with a plan for how they would step down the implementation of their mission is apparently OCO. That is, again, Orbital Carbon Observatory. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the incredible story of this mission, this spacecraft, and another piece of equipment called OCO3. Let me just give you a little brief rundown here. So in 2009, NASA tried to launch a new satellite called the Orbiting Carbon Observatory. Its mission was to measure the amount of carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere, which is the main greenhouse gas driving climate change. But tragedy struck, and the rocket carrying OCO failed, and the satellite was lost before it reached orbit. NASA quickly set to work building a replacement. The satellite, called OCO2, again with the naming, successfully launched on July 2nd, 2014 from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. It entered a sun-synchronous orbit about 705 kilometers above Earth. OCO2 carried a high-resolution spectrometer, an instrument that measures sunlight reflected off Earth's surface. By studying the way CO2 absorbs certain wavelengths of light, OCO2 could map the amount of carbon dioxide across the globe with great precision. OCO2's data showed the breathing of the planet, how plants take in CO2 during spring and summer, and how it rises again in fall and winter. It also revealed how natural events like El Nino in the 2015-2016 season caused huge spikes in CO2 emissions from tropical regions. For the first time, scientists had a detailed, continuous picture of where carbon was being released and absorbed. NASA built OCO3 using leftover hardware from OCO2. Instead of flying as its own satellite, OCO3 was launched on a SpaceX Dragon cargo mission and installed on the International Space Station on May 10th, 2019. Because the ISS travels in a different orbit than OCO2, OCO3 could observe carbon dioxide at many different times of day. It also had a special snapshot area mode, allowing it to focus on specific regions like cities, forests, or power plants. OCO3 produced some of the first detailed carbon maps of large cities such as Los Angeles and Mumbai, showing pollution plumes in real time. Both OCO2 and OCO3 were designed to help scientists, governments and organizations understand the carbon cycle, track national emissions, and improve climate models. They became especially important as global carbon dioxide passed 400 parts per million in 2016 and continued to rise. Now, however, these missions face an uncertain future. So, this is my brief prepared statement about these remarkable pieces of equipment. Just to reiterate, so just to, for those of you who like to geek out like I do, okay, when plants engage in photosynthesis, that's not the right way to say it. When plants absorb light and emit it again, that process, they absorb blue light and they emit yellow light, yellow warmer color tones. Sunlight is mainly blue light, as people like myself who worked in the doomed profession of video production know. Daylight is blue, though it looks yellow. It's blue, and in effect, it's white. It's all the color spectrum, but in the spectrum that we can see, it casts a very blue hue, and so the plants are absorbing that light and they're kicking back light. But it's so it requires such a sensitive process to be able to use spectrometry to actually see where that exchange is happening, that no equipment that is in space right now can actually accurately gather that information so that you can actually see foliage interacting with carbon dioxide. So OCO2 and OCO3, that's their job. Basically, their job is to give us fair warnings and to give us a more accurate picture of how our atmosphere is interacting with climate change gases. So naturally, it's the first on the chopping block. This is likely to be the first major program that we were not warned by Sean Duffy or anybody in the Trump administration that they were going to start canceling missions of NASA. But after cutting half of their budget, everybody knew it had to happen. You can't fire enough people from NASA to cut its budget by half. There's just, at some point, you have to stop paying for rockets. You have to stop paying for launches. You have to stop maintaining equipment. And that's where we're going to have to deal with a lot of these problems. Of course, in the long run, I'm talking about how it's very plausible they will cancel NEO Surveyor, which is a fully funded program. It's been paid for already. It's being built as we speak. It's being built and ready for launch sometime next year. Currently, it's scheduled, I believe, for September of next year. And again, this is it's like a James Webb Space Telescope for looking for asteroids and near Earth, other near Earth objects. This telescope could save lives. The other one that's scheduled to launch, I believe, early next year is the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, which is the one of the telescopes that is the heir to the Hubble. You know that Hubble should have been probably retired. Frankly, 20 years ago, its mission has been extended because it's just been such a useful instrument. And you guys know I can go off on a long rant about what an absolute travesty it is to me that currently our government's plan for Hubble, which is falling towards Earth, is to just basically let it fall. Now they say no, they're working with private industry to come up with it. Yeah, they tried. They mounted a dock on the bottom of Hubble, a soft dock ring that doesn't go to anything. They don't have the machine that connects to that. They figured, well, we'll come up with that when we pay however much to go up and get it, because they canceled the space shuttle program. And it's the space shuttle that was supposed to bring Hubble home eventually. Personally, I am of the opinion that Hubble should come home. There are those who say that we could just boost it into higher Earth orbit and continue to use Hubble. I think that it makes sense to bring Hubble home and put him into the Smithsonian, let kids see this piece of equipment that took these magnificent pictures. We should deorbit. We should bring Hubble home. That means nothing to anybody, I guess. But as it is now, some point between here and 2040, Hubble will strike the upper layers of our atmosphere at such force and strength that it will disintegrate into basically big hunks and or flying puddles of molten metal, including its giant mirror, which is silver, that will just come hurling down. And frankly, nobody really knows exactly where, since we don't know when it will achieve that low orbit. I mean, it's not really even effectively. I mean, it is orbital, but it's so low. The Hubble is so low to the Earth's orbit. It's technically already in our atmosphere. It's just like in the really, really distant, thin parts of the atmosphere. And so, it's disheartening to see that while somebody may look at this as cold-hearted, budget cuts, really what it is it is a move against science, and it's motivated by more than just money. Well, more than just the government's money. I want to tell you a little bit about this, okay? So, again, let's look at this is OCO2. I didn't have a real picture of OCO3. It's just built into the International Space Station. But let me tell you a little bit about the impact of these orbital platforms work, right? So now China, for example, OCO2 data confirmed that China's coal use produces far more carbon dioxide than official reports suggest in some years. Because if you've been following this closely, you would know that China has for years claimed that they are almost single-handedly solving climate change. Hey, buddy. You need help? I might have to set you guys to watch something here for a minute so I can go help somebody. What's up, buddy? Yeah, he's all right. That China has been producing. China wants everybody to believe around the world that they are the more conscientious about climate change than the United States is. That the United States is the real major producer of carbon dioxide, and not them. And so, of course, people have been pointing a finger back at China all this time, saying, "Are you kidding me? Do you know that they basically power their entire country on coal?" But of course, now they have invested. China has invested massively in the newest generations of nuclear reactors and nuclear power systems that are more safe than any other generation ever built. They are more scientifically advanced than are basically implemented damn near anywhere else on the planet. They are, and of course, they are developing fusion reactors, which is mind-boggling. It's almost like it's like science fiction made real. And so, and of course, the United States is as well, but not really at the scale that China is. It's my understanding, at least. And so, while all that is going on, China has wanted the world to believe that they have found every other way, whether it's by solar or by whatever means, to scale back their use of coal for energy. OCO2 was the instrument that. Sorry, that's not true. That they are lying, and so that's one. Studies using the satellites readings showed underestimated emissions from industrial regions, especially during winters when coal heating spikes. In India, OCO3's ability to zoom in on cities revealed urban emission plumes over places like Delhi and Mumbai. These data highlighted the enormous role of urban growth, transportation, and coal-powered electricity in India's rising emissions, which complicates its international climate pledges. The United States, of course, even in the United States, OCO3 detected major carbon dioxide releases from California wildfires and from industrial zones. Remember, right now here in America, it's a very politically charged situation, as Gavin Newsom, rather hilariously, has started to take to X and post pictures and tweets basically making fun of Donald Trump and making him, poking fun at himself. One way in which Democrats will never make fun of their own, I believe, or I think, is they don't have nearly as big a sense of humor about the fact that Gavin Newsom is, and frankly, the entire Democratic Party's major establishment, vote for who you want. I'm not suggesting anybody do otherwise. Is that they are very much in bed with oil interests, and oil interests basically have influence in every major political movement in America. Now, does that mean that they are all the same? No, of course not. I mean, that wouldn't be sensible to suggest they are all the same. But to say that there is influence in both parties, there certainly is. And California is one of the major producers of fossil fuels in the world. And so, once again, OCO3 don't give no shits about your political party. OCO3 is and OCO2 exposed. California is dumping tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, probably much more than anybody would like to believe. Then you have oil-producing states. Okay, of course we are one of those, but particularly we're talking about Russia and Saudi Arabia. Satellites confirmed high emissions from flaring natural gas in oil fields. These readings have been cited in climate talks to argue that oil exporters are not being transparent about their environmental impact. And then you have fossil fuel corporations by showing that there's an unmistakable CO2 plumes over refineries and oil fields. OCO2 and OCO3 have given researchers data to challenge fossil fuel companies' claims about efficiency, emissions cuts, or carbon capture. You remember the whole carbon capture? If you don't know, there's this story out there that they've invented, machines that can either attach to smokestacks, or that they can put nearby, or that they can put up on the Arctic and Antarctic, ice caps, and start drawing carbon out of the air. You don't have to cut back on any emissions, because we can just build these machines that will just suck carbon out of the air and then bury it deep underground. It's this great high-tech solution. It's not working. It's bullshit. This is, you can see why this very quickly has become the era of being against science, and especially against climate science. These two pieces of equipment, OCO2 and OCO3, have made liars out of everybody. They've made liars out of the U.S. government. They've made liars out of the Chinese government. They've made liars out of the Russian. They've made liars out of everybody, and it's good. It's a good thing, though it might not seem so. And corporations, they've made liars out of corporations. Well, those corporations have been lying the whole time, because of course they have. They make money. They make money from selling energy, and so So basically, it's not surprising that of all the programs to get the chop, OCO appears to be the first on the block. Then you have coal power operators in both China and India. Satellite carbon maps exposed emissions from coal plants that were supposedly fitted with clean technology. Showed that wasn't real, that it wasn't working. Agribusiness and deforestation interests. That, of course, we're talking mainly about places like Brazil. OCO2 revealed how deforestation and land clearing release massive amounts of CO2. For example, during El Nino years, when fires in the Amazon or Indonesia surge, the satellites clearly recorded spikes in emissions. This has been used to pressure both governments and agribusiness companies tied to forest loss. Again, I don't want to belabor the point, but I mean, it is kind of the point of this whole program. I will show you guys again if I still have it here. I told you we talked a little bit about ALMA here. ALMA is the name we have given to an asteroid that has a non-zero chance of striking Earth on or about December 22nd, 2032. At current estimates, it is a less than 1% chance, which is great news for us because we think we have less than 1% chance of stopping it, which is about commensurate to where it should be, I guess, considering that it's very, very likely that if this asteroid we discover within the next 2 years that this asteroid is going to hit Earth, is that we won't know for another 2 years because ALMA is right now on the other side of the sun. We don't have any equipment that can observe it from where he is. So we won't know until 2027, maybe 2028, whether or not whatever hurdles he has to weave through on the other side of the sun lead him into an increased chance or decreased chance of hitting Earth. Right now, it's less than 1% chance that he will hit Earth, but a more than 4% chance that he will strike the moon. Strangely enough, it's actually it's like our moon is almost gearing around to protect us, so it could be just a really cool day to observe the moon. Probably have to get something in space to watch it if we're going to be able to watch it. I think that would be cool. But in any event, but here's the problem. The likelihood that it will hit Earth, it's non-zero. They call it a non-zero chance. And the non-zero chance that it will strike Earth is along this corridor. If ALMA does hit Earth, this is according to the data from NASA where it will likely strike. So somewhere over here, just west of the Yucatan, and then dips down over all of northern South America, stretches across the Pacific, all the way across the middle of Africa, and then on into Asia. And so we don't know where in this zone exactly ALMA will strike. We don't even know that ALMA will strike. At this point, it's plausibly 99% chance it won't strike Earth at all. It'll probably strike the moon, or it will have a very near miss and get to watch him as he goes by. But luck favors the prepared. So that's why we at the Church of Korihor, the little tiny atheist church that we are, without a whole lot of money, just a whole lot of dreams, and a keen interest in science, are saying, we've got a couple years here. Let's at least talk about it. If we were to deflect ALMA, if we were to throw him off course, how would we do it? And could we use the instrument of the state to raise the funds to be able to do it, seeing as the Church of Korihor is a church? There's tons of shady money comes in and out of churches all the time. We talked about it on my series, Charlatans Never Change, about hundreds of millions of dollars every year that just go dark when people donate it to churches. And then these mega pastors use it to buy off mansions. They use it to buy planes. They use it to buy stadiums and build themselves mega churches. And the whole thing is it's tax-free. It's tax deductions for those people. And I'm looking and saying, what if our mega church was, hey, we're going to build a space laser that deflects asteroids? Why not? I mean, is it because it's the cost is so prohibitively different? Let's talk about it, because you might be surprised what the difference is. I love to bring this up. Maybe people are getting sick of hearing it, but I mentioned in one of my godless sermons earlier this year that the Mormon Church paid $330 million to buy a garbanzo bean farm in Australia, just ahead of the tariffs. The tariff implementations, in other words, so that they could continue to grow more food distributed all throughout the world without having to engage in the trade war with the United States, where the Mormon Church owns more farmland than any entity in the world. Just in case you didn't know. And in any event, for the price of that farm, we could plausibly have shot ALMA down by now. It's like that much money. That's the scale of money that we're talking about if we were to use NASA's DART mission as an example of how we would accomplish it. Why can't churches be the ones to go out and do something like that? Well, I'll tell you why. They're literally, instead of talking about danger to people who live in this impact corridor, instead of talking about that, what are they talking about? That you need to prepare for Jesus to come back. I follow a lot of Mormon creators on YouTube, and they, people like Rise Zion, Zion Media, Ward Radio, even Jacob Hansen. All these guys, maybe I haven't, maybe I may have to retract that about Jacob Hansen. He's good about calling people out when they can't provide exact sources, exact moments, references. But all of these channels have been talking about how we are now living in the end times. Jesus is coming back, and the prophets have been telling us all this time. And even the Mormon Church, which of all Christian churches out there is probably one of the more level-headed when it comes to eschatology and preaching about the end of the world. They've waxed quite eschatological. They are suddenly an end times prophecy church on a scale I have never seen before. These guys are very much convinced Jesus is coming back. So, of course, they're buying up farms because they're going to need to grow food after the apocalypse. They're going to need places to rebuild the kingdom of God after God wreaks havoc on the planet, on our entire planet, to destroy wicked atheists like me. And this is their plan. They're not accelerating any plan to protect the earth. They're hoping that the rocks fall. They're hoping that the fire and brimstone is coming. And so it's shameful, frankly. So anyways, let me tell you a little bit more about this. Okay. Oh yeah. Transportation hubs and airlines. Urban emission maps from OCO3 have made it harder for aviation and shipping sectors to downplay their impact. Major airports, ports, and highways now show up as hotspots. Again, they made liars out of so many industries, governments. Basically, this is how you know you have good science. When even the government that sent OCO2 and OCO3 into space got called out by their own equipment, saying, you guys are putting too much damn carbon dioxide into this atmosphere, and this is how it gets distributed, and this is where it's going. And it strikes up everybody's conscience in images, and that's pretty important. I'm going to talk about this, so I'm going to close this down here. I want to show you guys a video here, and we're going to try and laugh at it. You're going to hear Sean Duffy talking to his friends on Fox Business, where he used to be a host. Again, we're doing this again. It's weird. Okay. But I just wanted to mention, before we get into more doom and gloom, I worry that of all the preaching I do as an atheist preacher for the Church of Korihor, the most doom and gloom I do is about Alma hitting Earth, which is bizarre because there's plenty of things I could bitch about all day long. And when reality is, when I came up with this idea that we should have our own space agency, nothing eschatological, no fire and brimstone had caught my attention. But I knew at the time, and I know now, that if you talk about, there's a giant space rock hurtling at us, it gets more attention. And I hate to play that game, but it's true. And it is true. These space rocks are coming for us. They are out there, and there will be many instances where they hit us before we even know it. And the fact that we are now looking at defunding and decommissioning projects like OCO shows pretty plainly that no one really cares. Well, no one in government cares that this is actually dangerous. It's a mop up the damage instead of prevent. the damage kind of situation. And that's disheartening. But when I started into this, the thing that really got me excited about it was this idea that we could buy churches. If you don't know, churches in America are getting quite cheap. People stopped going to church during the COVID-19 pandemic and just started doing home church, which all these churches are bitching and moaning has totally, has damaged their attendance so much, has shut down attendance to church so much. Here at the Church of Korihor, we only do home church, and we love it. But it's been my ambition for a while that eventually we would have buildings, and we would just go and buy these old buildings. Some of these churches are very nice, some of them not so much, but some of them are very nice. And I thought, boy, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a community center here? Wouldn't it be lovely to turn these into homeless shelters, and to turn them into job training centers, and to turn them into universities? And I said this before, and I don't think anybody caught on to it. I don't think anybody else catches the vision of it, but I'm hoping to start soon. I said, here's what we're going to do. At first, I thought we would take steeples off of churches and just like throw them down into the ground, right? Just like destroy their steeples, because steeples supposed to point to God. No, there are no gods. Blah. But then I realized what a missed opportunity that was. When you could just take, a steeple and put a telescope on it, and then put right there on the same grounds. This used to be so holy grounds to go and worship God. We buy these churches, and then we put a telescope or a camera in the infrared spectrum or full spectrum, or however we do, and then put it like a geodesic dome and create a planetarium where any people in these communities can come and experience the wonder of outer space live, thanks to the use of this steeple. Now, yes, you could do it from, with a telescope from the ground. In recent, but I mean, that's not as much fun. And we have a steeple. We're trying to buy these churches, and it was a good idea. It was ambitious and everything, but we have a little tiny congregation. We're not throwing around that kind of money, and so it was a little premature. I get it. This is a 5 to 10 year plan, not a next year, next year plan. But then I realized that part of it actually may be more current than we think. There's a company out there. It's called Unistellar, I believe it's called. I've been doing tons of research on this, and the names start to blend together. So there's this company out there. It is called Unistellar, and they make this. They make a telescope. I would show it to you. I have it pulled up here, but it gets StreamYard's still getting a little wonky when we use the sharing mode. Anyway, I was sharing screen mode. Anyways, it's called the Odyssey Pro. And basically, you can set it up. You set it up this smart telescope, and it's about the size of a coffee can. Okay, so it's not huge, and it has its own motorized mount, and it's specifically designed to be small enough, portable enough, and yet smart enough that, without having to have a whole lot of expertise on how to use a telescope and how to frame and how to track with a telescope, how to track objects and so forth, find objects, focus and adjust the back focus and so forth, adjust your eyepiece and what have you. It's designed so that you just tell it what objects you want to track, and then it automatically takes over and it controls all of its own instrumentation, and it just starts tracking it live right in front of you. And I thought, man, that would be the coolest thing to play with, certainly, because this telescope, you can show you nebulae. You can look at galaxies and see galaxies right here from the ground, things that 10, 15 years ago, for the price tag that you're talking about, you couldn't see anything like that. You'd have to wait for them to publish images from Hubble to get images like this. Now we can get them right from the ground. I mean, just the technology that's available out there, it's incredible. And this telescope, which they sell for $4,500, which little spendy for me, but a little bit of scratch for me, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. I could maybe get one of these telescopes. And I thought, why? Why would I do it? How could I do it right now? How would I justify the cost? And I thought, and then then I discovered this. This company, Unistellar, they've partnered with NASA. And one of the things that they can do with these telescopes is they can use it to track occlusions. Basically, as stars, if you point at a certain part of the sky where the asteroid belt is, as stars are peaking, as you're gazing at these stars, it starts to track objects that cross in between you and these stars and start looking at their shadows. Between that and looking at the way the objects are moving, it can compare that data with the data that NASA's been using to track asteroid movements, and basically in real time it maps out objects that you may have been discovering, that you may be in the process of discovering just by watching them occlude the light of the stars, and that you can that information then gets uploaded into NASA's database to help them to find asteroids. Which I'm like, well, are you kidding me? I didn't know that until this week, that such a thing was even possible. And I'm just blown away that it's entirely possible that we could get 2 or 3 of these things, put them in different parts of the country, and set them up, gathering data for NASA, and our little space mission, our little space agency could fulfill its mission here. We don't have to launch rockets or probes to fulfill a mission of helping to protect Earth. We could spend $1,500 or abouts, and we could contribute to the effort to do this. We could start bringing people on and ordaining people as luminaries. Luminaries of reason are our missionaries, if you will. They don't convert people. Well, they don't have to. Really only the heralds convert people, but the luminaries, they do our mission work. And our mission is to transform painful lives into lives worth living. And it occurred to me in the process of this that we could potentially not only contribute to the science of this and take beautiful images and videos of the night sky and publish them so that people can see this beautiful night sky. We could do it live. We could have events at certain points of the year when there are meteor showers or eclipses, when we have at different vantage points across the country the ability to see different things. We could have events all over the country where people come out, enjoy the spoken word, enjoy a little bit of music, bring the kids out with you, and stargaze at night and see this beautiful universe we have around us. See it live with the aid of these telescopes, which, as I understand it, you can connect them by Bluetooth, like to a projector. So I want you to imagine, I'd meant to take some time to have AI actually imagine this, but I think I'll probably actually describe it better just describing it to you. Imagine like a giant pyramid, if you will, not of like pyramid walls, but like a giant tripod, computer tripod, okay, with one of these telescopes up at the top, mounted on top of it, and tracking different objects in the night sky. And then we can, whatever that may be, wherever we are. We have people from all over. People have no idea what the Church of Coracore is, or have no idea about our movement. And we don't preach to them to come join our church. We don't preach to them that God doesn't exist. We have no interest in any of that. All I want to do is give people the opportunity to have the wonder of seeing live what it looks like to look at our beautiful universe and play some music. Maybe even, I've talked a little bit about, we're launching, I've been passing around this idea and it's been gathering up some interest. I'm letting it develop naturally, of people who are musicians and singers, that we're going to have a mission just for people to sing. And music, it turns out, has been, like I said many times now and already on this broadcast, just want to say this before we go on, to laugh at Sean Duffy here. The two best surprises for me about this little spiritual community for godless people are, one, how central music is to what we're doing, and two, how women have stepped up to lead the movement. And I'm blown away with awe at how that just occurred without my ever being able to predict any such thing. And it's been beautiful. So our little space agency, I may do a little fire and brimstone once in a while to get attention, and because I really do want to shoot down this asteroid. But I got into a little bit of trouble when some people who used to follow the channel on YouTube said, I can't believe that, I thought we were just going to talk about how stupid the Mormon church is. I thought we were going to talk about how stupid, Christianity is. And now you're talking about starting a space agency, blah, blah, blah. And I've had to explain to people, I try to explain to people, but I don't try hard, and say, it's not just about that. I'm trying to make it relevant. I'm going to mention this real quickly. I've started to low-key refer to this as DPM, or dick pic math. I talked about this last time. I'm going to bring it up again, just briefly. If you don't know, you should look it up. There was a time when John Oliver, for last week tonight, went to Russia and interviewed Edward Snowden and asked him what he knew about what Americans think about him. And Edward Snowden was surprised to find nobody knows who Edward Snowden is. And until John Oliver, showed him footage of people talking about, oh, I think that's the guy that started WikiLeaks, or isn't he like a traitor? Isn't he the guy who betrayed our country and blah, blah, blah. And poor Edward Snowden, like, they don't know who I am, but they're certain that I've compromised national security. Okay, great. And then he's like, they don't know and they don't care. They won't care. And Edward Snowden was like kind of dejected. Like, you watch this interview, he was kind of blown away. It's like, wow, thanks a lot for invalidating all the sacrifices I've made. And he said, but there is one difference. And he hands him a folder. The folder has a picture of John Oliver's penis in it. And he's like, wow, thanks for that. And he says, that dick pic, does the government have that? Oh, this is, it's here in this manila folder. This may be the one instance where that maybe the government doesn't actually have this dick pic. And John Oliver says, I got on the plane with that. I took that with my phone. In order to print it out and put it in that folder, I had to email it to myself. And Edward Snowden says, oh, well, yeah, now the government has it. And he goes, what? And he's like, yeah, if you use email to email a document to yourself, the government collects it. As soon as it, he's like, what program of the, of the blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so, and he's like, oh, it's this program, that program that collects it, it warehouses it. And he's like, but technically the government has my dick pic right now. And he's like, yeah, not just yours, like everybody's. And he's like, do you realize how terrifying that is? And it sounds like, okay, of all the things, your dick pics, I think, are probably pretty low priority to the government and to you. And John Oliver's like, watch again. And he shows him interviews with those same people who just minutes ago were calling for, yeah, he should turn himself in. He should go to prison. Our national security, blah blah blah. They're just like interviewing people at Times Square, and he says we talk to those same people and asking men and women, do you ever send someone a dick pic? And do you ever receive dick pics or ask someone to send you a dick pic? And they say, yeah, of course, this is private. That's none of your business. Oh, interesting. That's the private. What if we told you, if you sent it by text message, if you sent it by email, if you sent it by instant messenger, almost certainly the government has that dick pic now. And these people were on fire. What? No, not my dick pics. And they're just livid about this. They can't just keep our dick pics on some server somewhere in Washington. It's like, actually probably out here in Utah anyways. But it's like, and all of a sudden it came home. All of a sudden it mattered to people. And I think about that episode far more often than I would like. Probably not, and so, now that I've said that, somebody's going to have a lot of fun with that clip. Fine, whatever. But for this reason, it really is true that mass communications, whether it's television, whether it's here on the internet, on YouTube or whatever, it really is a science of making people give a shit about something. And so I call it dick pic math. What is the dick pic ratio of making somebody care about this problem? And the problem that, that I see that the Church of Korihor could actually address, this is the problem that sounds like the adults talking in Peanuts cartoon, is there is an active concerted effort right now in America and around the world to shut down science, to shut down scientific endeavors that hurt, because true science, like these missions, like the OCO mission, true science doesn't care about your politics. True science doesn't care about your psychology, well, unless it's on the psychological, sociological sciences. But this true science that like this calls out the liars and exposes how we as a species could be doing better. And there are forces at work, not like metaphysical forces, human beings for a profit motive who are actively working, have been actively working to get these things shut down, to get science shut down in this country and around the world. And this, what we saw it happen this week. You are seeing it live. It is happening. It is not on the radar. It is not in the future. It is now starting to pop up in the rearview mirror. We are going through it right now. So asteroid impacts are interesting and dangerous, but at the same time, if I could really be talking about something right now, I would love to be talking about how we could be having amazing events with music and spoken word and fun jokes. And I could go around traveling all over this country and ordaining luminaries who are citizen scientists and doing something that actually benefits the world. And that's what church should be. But because people wasted it on God, it's not. Rant over. Let's watch a funny video. It's funny. It's funny, haha, if you force yourself to funny, haha about it. I'm going to close down all these other videos. Once again, as I always do, I put off to the very last minute, putting this clip where I could get to it. So you don't have to wait just 1 second while I pull it up. Boom, boom. And let's listen to our dear illustrious administrator, Sean Duffy.
It is streaming right now on Fox Nation. Here's a clip.
Our modern way of life, Maria, has become dependent on space capabilities.
The U.S. Space Command is responsible for everything more than 100 kilometers above the Earth. General Stephen Whiting is the four-star general in charge. So it sounds like a war could start in space or extend in space.
Yeah, Maria, we certainly don't want that to happen. It's our job.
Okay. I said that I do some fire and brimstone about outer space. Okay. I'm not talking about anybody starting wars in outer space. Let's just get it clear. That's alarmist. Come on. No, there's very low plausibility. You watch how you see his face, right? There's a very low probability that anybody's looking to weaponize outer space enough to actually go and fight wars out there. The war they're fighting is over energy resources. The war they're going to be fighting is over communications. The war they're going to be fighting, we've been engaged in from the beginning of this project. So don't get fooled here. But of course, this poor guy's in the position of having to defend the existence of Space Force as an institution.
Here at U.S. Space Command, and our goal to maintain space as a peaceful place and to reestablish deterrence. But if a war were to start, we are concerned it could start in space or extend into space.
So, Secretary, you were at the signing yesterday with President Trump, and I like to say that most people don't understand why space is so important. I get it now. It's where our satellites are. And
tell me you heard that shit. Did you hear that shit? I get it now. That's where our satellites are. Maria. Don't debase your own intelligence running the propaganda. Oh, I get it now. That's where our satellites are. Come on. The hell did you think they were? Good gosh. This is sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying.
any adversary who wants to get adversarial with the United States, they take down our satellites. They're turning the lights out. They're turning GPS off.
Huge, it's a huge problem. So just let's take a step back, Maria. By the way, great special. Thank you for doing it and driving how important space actually is to our everyday part of our lives. But we just had today the 1,000th private space launch. And so that took 35 years to get us to 1,000 launches. We think with this CEO, in less than 5 years, we'll get the next 1,000 launches from the private sector, which is fantastic. By the way, we used to own all those private launches, again, starting with SpaceX. We only have 60% of the launches right now in America.
Okay. You see this? Sean Duffy is a politician. Politicians politic. He has to politic. You have to jump from the fear mongering over into, oh, let's talk about how the propaganda line. We are better than ever before, but we do have a problem, and we could be even better. But that's not to say we're not the best, because we are the best that could be better and better and better. He's got to position himself as being both the sales guy, the pitch guy for the administration, while also trying to stress why it is that we definitely have to change priorities and scale back on things like satellites that expose that private industry and has made this world extremely unsafe.
And the reason we don't have more launches is because of the rules, regulations, and red tape that come around the launch, right? We want to do things safely. And so with me at both DOT, which has FAA, and NASA, we have to work as one government. And what was happening was you have regulation from FAA and regulation from NASA and regulation from Commerce. And we want to speak with one government, streamline that red tape, reduce costs, and allow all of the launches to happen in this country. We want American companies and foreign companies to be launching off of our pods.
Okay, just want to reiterate here: the grand total number of additional launches being authorized under this man's new plan is 0. If anything, they're scaling back on launches. Now, that's not to say that his ambition to launch a nuclear reactor to the moon, which they don't need, and is doing absolutely nothing, is accomplishing absolutely nothing except for preventing Vladimir Putin and President Xi from becoming Elon Musk's gas station. That's on the moon. That's it. That's all they're trying to do. He's admitted that's all they're trying to do. And Sean Duffy has. He has said, and he'll talk a little bit about this. But right now, he's got to get the sales pitch on why NASA is still relevant with half of its budget and significantly cutting back on the core principle, the core mission of NASA, which is to learn more about the universe and to learn more about aerospace and the atmosphere and space, and to advance the scientific cause. Because he doesn't want that. He doesn't want that because it hurts business. So now, speaking of which, talk business.
Pads in America. And so we're going to streamline that approach. And again, you talk about how important space is. It is critical. And again, we want to drive peace. We don't know where other countries are going to be at in space. They could see a strategic military component to space, which we want to deter. The moon, you mentioned the moon. We want to put a nuclear reactor on the moon because at the south pole of the moon, I don't think a lot of people understand this, there's ice. Ice means water, which means we can inhabit the southern pole of the moon. You need an energy source. So some of it can be from solar, but the most reliable energy source is going to come from nuclear. And so we have fast-tracked this approach.
Okay. If your energy source for the future is nuclear, you don't need ice from the moon to get there. You got plenty of nuclear energy right here on the good old-fashioned planet Earth. The point there is to put a nuclear plant up there that can help to manufacture hydrogen and oxygen, that is easier to launch chemical rocket fuel, that's easier to launch from the moon than it is to launch from Earth because of the gravity difference. That's the point. And so who cares? Just buy it from whoever you have to buy it from, or even better yet, use more nuclear. If you want to put nuclear reactors in space, put nuclear reactors in space, and problem solved. What if that's not enough electricity? Then you will supplement it with solar, and you improve the nuclear. You use this new fusion technology. China's at the cutting edge of it. China may very well is very arguably beating us in fusion reactor technology, and that's where the war is. That's where the space race is right now. They can make all of these things, all of this technology better at a fraction of the cost of what we are spending. Because why? Because the United States, even with NASA's budget cut in half and people leaving by thousands from NASA in order to preserve the mission of NASA, to be able to function on less money, and yet they are still going to have to cancel plausibly maybe as many as 100 missions of NASA. Okay, but NASA doesn't just belong to us. NASA belongs to the world, and that may seem stupid in some people's estimation. Why do we use our taxpayer dollars to benefit all mankind? That's because that's what it was supposed to be. That's what NASA was. This was one of the good things that we did in this world as Americans. It's one of the things we did that actually made us show up like we cared. And we got a little hot under the collar. I didn't expect to do that. Sorry. This carbon data, it wasn't just about guilting people about climate change. This carbon data was crucial to how to plan the distribution of water, how to plan the distribution of crops, so that countries much poorer than the United States of America would have the data they need to produce food more regularly, to prevent fires, to place resources to combat wildfires, and things like this that were much easier to track when we knew how the atmosphere was breathing this carbon from one side of the planet to the other. And yes, a major part of it was also to show that we can, as humans, we need to keep an eye on climate change and do better and come up with more innovative strategies for how we can use energy more efficiently and how we can combat climate change. Yes, that's certainly an essential part of the mission, but it was also data that the whole world was using. And if it goes dark again, the irony about talking about America having this geopolitical dominance and this alpha male presence in outer space is that we just surrendered. I can't stress this enough. Sean Duffy just surrendered to the Chinese. This is now an opportunity for China, for the European Space Agency, for somebody who sees that NASA is starting to falter. Now is their chance to get a piece of the action that America once had and take it over. And Sean Duffy wants people to think, no, well, nobody cares about climate change. They care about putting a nuclear power plant on the moon. And he's going to find out in a hurry if the Chinese Space Agency, which is an arm of their military, by the way, or the European Space Agency, or any of these space agencies around the world, suddenly says the Americans are faltering, cutting on their budget, on their space budget. Let's beef our space budget up, and we can get a piece of that action. I can't stress this enough. What gets overlooked in these policymaking decisions, and I'm just speaking about it from a moral standpoint here, is that you don't play games with your association to a government. If you are a government, you don't start wars. You don't play games that are going to jeopardize the favor of the country that's coming into your country and bringing food and bringing education and bringing sex ed, which is a crucial, vital part of what America has done in the world, and brings in these NGOs. And then, because before long, what else comes with it? You get banking, you get industry, you get innovation, you get education, higher education, and then you get your own space agencies, you get your own science agencies. What happens then? You get jobs in the STEM fields. Well, all of a sudden you've got American money, American economy and European economy flowing into your economy. You don't jeopardize that when somebody comes up and says, oh, well, maybe we should be fill in the blank, throwing gay people off of rooftops, or, maybe we should be invading another country. No, America might get pissed at us. So what? Let them get pissed. No. If America gets pissed at us, we're not going to have access to the same resources. When America surrenders its position as the country that is producing the most climate change science, and the most important climate change science that's so good, it even calls us out. It even calls us out and says we are failing. When America gives up that high ground, you are looking at a ticking, I don't want to say this that way. You are looking at a countdown timer to when somebody steps in and says, we'll pick up this mantle, we'll do it for you. And the irony is that Sean Duffy thinks he's actually gaining geopolitical stratagem, when he is actively surrendering it. Whoops.
We're hoping by the end of this decade, we're going to be able to get that reactor on the moon. At the first part of next year, Maria, Artemis 2, that's our mission to go out and around the moon, is going to happen. And then Artemis 3 will happen, which we're going to land back on the moon. And we're going to stay for 6 days. The longest before that was 3 days. Wow. And then we're going to start the process of building our base on the moon. That's important because to be on the moon and what we learn on the moon is going to allow us to go to Mars. And what we're doing at NASA is, again, they had a whole smorgasbord of priorities. We explore We explore space. And so we're going to go to the moon. We're going to go to Mars. We're going to look at what do we do with our next low Earth orbit space station, right? Because the International Space Station has another several years of life before it comes down. That's important to us. But all the climate science and all of the other priorities that the last administration had at NASA, we're going to move aside, and all of the science that we do is going to be directed towards exploration, which is the mission of NASA. That's why we have.
The mission of NASA is also to explore the scientific understanding of the universe. That's the point. That is what the point is. But you notice, did you see what he said there? He said, scaling back on climate science and all these other initiatives that are not exploration. This is where you have to prick up your ears and hear what's not being said. Like I've said before, and we'll say again, there's no way to cut NASA's budget down by half like they've been ordered to do, simply by letting go top-level personnel, which they have, taking the most experienced people at NASA and saying, you guys are the guys with the best with the biggest salaries because you've been working here 20, 30 years. They just the day before yesterday, I don't have it pulled up, so I'm gonna not try with the guy's name off the top of my head. But they announced on NASA's website the retiring of a guy who's worked there for 30 plus years. And the guy's job, then they announced just a couple days ago that, his last working day was back on the 8th of August, which seems strange. He didn't retire. He voluntarily left. He voluntarily quit. What's not being said there, and I can't help but wonder if some person in public relations there at NASA is like, I'm gonna say the quiet part quietly here. He obviously left so that his salary, say he wasn't drawing a salary that was pulling money away from actual important science, actual important missions. There's no way for them to pay for this budget cut with salary. It's not enough money. They have to cancel. They have to cancel launches. They're going to have to cancel personnel running missions. And it's very plausible at this moment that the next mission's on the chopping block. We know that of the Doge Commission's reporting that they did earlier this year, one of the teams, I remember going on Facebook and talking about this when it happened. I said, this has just been linked from the Goddard Space Center. There was an email sent out stating if you are working in the vicinity or if you are working in the program at the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, just be ready. Apparently, the Doge Commission is here, and they're coming. Just don't hinder them. Play along. Do whatever they ask. Answer their questions when asked. Answer them briefly. Only give them need to know information, but be thorough enough, that you're not hindering their investigation. They were investigating the Nancy Grace Roman Telescope to cancel it, to the possibility of canceling it. This is not only the first, on a surface level, you could look at it and say, and it's not unimportant, this is the first space telescope that will be named after a woman. Is that the most important thing about it? Hell no. Is it unimportant? No. How many little girls were going to look at pictures taken by the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope? Nancy Grace Roman herself was an astronomer that started writing papers about astronomy when she was a young girl, and talking about her dream of becoming an astronomer. Spent most of her senior years after she left NASA, because she went to work at NASA, spent most of her senior years volunteering to come back, to go to Congress, to work on basically a volunteer basis for NASA, so that she, during the years that she had hoped to spending her time doing astronomy and or teaching astronomy. And instead she went to Washington and fought tooth and nail to get the Hubble Space Telescope back up into orbit after they canceled the space shuttle program the first time after the Challenger accident. And this woman is the woman that the next Hubble is named for. This telescope can take more imagery in one photograph of the night sky. Well, it's all night sky to her. Can take more. It can take a larger image in one instant than Hubble took in years of photography, because her field of view is so much bigger than Hubble's. And in addition to that, she has technology built into her processors that's specifically designed to look for planets orbiting nearby stars, and even that can use different wavelengths of light bending around stars to even be able to see planets that are hiding behind stars. She can basically effectively see around a star and see a planet hiding behind it. That's Roman. And they might cancel her. We might get that notice any day now. We probably will get that notice any day now. Because, and Nancy Grace Roman, I can't stress this enough. This telescope is sitting ready to launch. They're putting it into the fairing soon, if they haven't done it already, ready to go. They are going to, she is due to launch. And the only thing is, they're going to have to pay for the launch. That's how that works, is that once the launch actually happens, that's when they can bill for it and get paid. Again, NEO surveyor, SpaceX is supposed to get paid to deliver this telescope so that we can see near-Earth asteroids, near-Earth objects that might hit this Earth, that might hit us, so we have more advanced warning than we're currently getting. I've mentioned that every week since we started this. Every single week, there's been a report of an asteroid that came dangerously close to hitting Earth, that they didn't know until the day before that it was even there. Boom, there it is. Oh shit! Once again, it's like, don't quote me exactly on it, but if my memory serves me, the budget to launch NEO Surveyor next year is $100 million. That's where your money is. That's where that's where they have to cut out the money, is in the launches. And so when Sean Duffy sits here and starts bitching and moaning about, we don't launch nearly as much, well, what are you doing cutting the damn budget for, Sean? You cut the budget, you get fewer launches. That's how that works. They cost money, guy.
NASA is to explore, not to do all of these earth sciences.
That is incredible. Look, I've said in the past that President Trump is the most consequential president we've ever seen.
100%.
I can honestly say this administration is the most consequential administration. What you're doing, congratulations, what you're doing on the moon and for Mars. And this is a national defense story. And that's what people need to understand about space. But let me take you right down to Earth again, because the Transportation Department.
Okay. Maria, I call out liars, okay? A, Sean Duffy has put jack shit on the moon. At this point, he may yet put jack shit on the moon or in Mars. I'm sorry to be... This guy gets no credit for scientists and brilliant explorers who have gone on before him. He gets no credit for this. He does not get to skirt on their accomplishments. Okay, this was done by people much smarter than Sean Duffy. This was and if he's going to accomplish any of his objectives, it's going to require people much smarter than Sean Duffy to do the actual work. And he just fired thousands of them effectively. So he doesn't get credit. He doesn't get credit for brain draining NASA. Okay. What he has done is he has surrendered. Sean Duffy has surrendered NASA's prominence, and at best made an opportunity for somebody out there, some country. I hope you guys hear me, whoever you are. My love for America is not so grand that I won't say, please, somebody else pick up the mantle we have dropped here. Somebody else pick up the mantle we have dropped and carry on with the work, because this can't stop. This work is too important to stop. ESA, I'm looking at you. China, I'm looking at you. Somebody's got to step up into the void that we're building right now. It's just startling. Anyways, also in addition to this, planetary defense is part of NASA's mission, but not defense from other governments and from militaries. Maria's lying again here. Surprise, surprise. We have Space Force for that reason. We have Space Command for that reason. That's what they do. That they are the military arm. We signed a treaty. We signed multiple treaties saying we would never do it. And then we went and violated those treaties. Okay, we weren't the first ones to do it. Does it matter? That's their job. It is not, but NASA is and always has been a civilian space agency. Yes, they built spy satellites, but whatever. Maybe they cooperated with the Pentagon in creating spy satellites, but this is not. NASA is not the arm of the military that we're going to use to fight wars in space. If they're going to fight wars in space, they're going to have to go to the Pentagon for that money, especially since they just cut their budget in half.
Has launched a new aviation consumer complaint system. You're working to update air traffic control systems and train more controllers. Secretary, you have not been shy about criticizing former transportation efforts and the Secretary Buttigieg for spiking dropout rates, lowering exam standards, and leaving this mess in our transportation grid. What do you think is most important in terms of making people understand that they're safe when flying?
Okay. Once again, lies. The air traffic controller problem was created by a man named Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan hired union busters in his administration back in the 80s who fought against the air traffic controller union because they wanted better hours, better pay, and they wanted to be able to have the resources necessary to deal with the high stress environment of being air traffic controllers. But because there is a law written into our code that says that federal employees cannot go on strike, their demands were overlooked, even though they had actually backed Reagan against his opponent, Jimmy Carter, in the race, because Jimmy Carter hadn't stood up for them when they asked him to. And they said, if you can't stand up for us, we'll go to Ronald Reagan. At least then we'll support Ronald Reagan, they said, because at least then we're talking to a union man. Very, very not an often remembered thing. Ronald Reagan was proud to say he was an AFL-CIO card-carrying member of the union. He was the former president of the Screen Actors Guild. But of course, you know, his story is one of a guy who turned his back on unions. He threatened, when they said law or no law, try to fly an airplane without air traffic controllers. On this date, we're calling in sick. And they had a sick in where they basically went on strike by everybody calling in sick at once. The government got some scabs to come in and fill in so that they could continue to work, so they could continue to fly planes. But all of a sudden, they couldn't fly planes. It got dangerous. It got too dangerous to fly. And then all of a sudden they had to start grounding flights all across the country. And lo and behold, suddenly they were starting to have to pay attention to the fact that if you want air traffic controllers to go out there and deal with this high stress occupation where they have people's lives on their lines, you've got to compensate them fairly, and you've got to give them days off. You got to give them time. You can't be working somebody 8 hours a day nonstop and then turn around and ask them to put in overtime hours, and especially not uncompensated overtime hours. You can't put that kind of stress on people like that and expect them to consistently perform. There's a reason why not just anybody can do that job. Reagan didn't care, said, he says, you all show up to work on this date at this time or you're fired. And he had union leaders arrested for not showing up to work. I mean, what does that sound like? His commitment was that within a matter of months, he would go out there, train all new air traffic controllers, get a whole bunch of new air traffic controllers, and come in and fill all the vacancies left by the people he had fired. They never, in the rest of his presidency, they never recuperated that. Then it went on into the 90s and continues today. It is still a crisis. That decision still is affecting the fact that there isn't enough representation, and there isn't enough there hasn't been enough advancements in not only the technology that air traffic controllers use. Yes, that has become antiquated, but also they haven't updated nearly enough the salary and benefits and things that these people need in order to do their job. And so now Sean Duffy's going to pull one out of his ass, pull out a miracle of modernizing our air traffic control system. With what expertise? He's never done anything like this. Never. This man is not some giant of industry. He's a guy Donald Trump used to watch on fucking TV. Oh, shit. We're going to get to the end of this because, I wanted to show you this because we covered this briefly in an earlier episode.
$0.5 billion investment that we got in the big, beautiful bill. I'm going to need $31.5 billion to complete the job, but we're going to begin the process of upgrading we're using copper. We're going to put in new fiber, a new telecom system, new radar that date back to the 50s, new radios, new voice switches. All are going to come online. We have to develop a new software about how we control our airspace, which is going to give us more safety and more efficiency, as we're going to have drones and eVTOLs in the airspace. So that's really important. But we're also 3,000 air traffic controllers short. By the way,
I wonder how that happened. Again, we talked about this last time, just a refresher. eVTOLs, they're basically drones that people can climb into. They're also drones that can carry big, heavy equipment or big, heavier things. Basically, they've been experimenting for a while now, and there has been a lot of red tape in recent administrations resisting the mass deployment of an army of drones that are going to deliver all of your Amazon packages, basically. They've been trying to get to a point now where, like, if you can order a couch and a drone will leave it on your front door, on your front porch. Wow, really cool, really interesting. How many people in your neighborhood are going to order a new couch and have it delivered by drone? Do you see a problem? Also, they have these eVTOLs that Sean Duffy loves to brag about them as the Ubers of the sky. Remember back during the campaign, Donald Trump got up and said, not only are we going to build new cities, but they're going to be the cities with flying cars in them. How long have we been told, have we been promised there would be flying cars? Now we're going to have flying cars. And they're these eVTOLs, basically. They are these basically drones, if you will, in the way you think about them. They're helicopters that can tilt their rotors forward and fly forward. Okay. So basically, and in some cases they have like as many as 3 or 4 of them, et cetera. the point is this: they have since the start of this year, one piece of red tape after another has been cut to lead the way for allowing these different industries to start putting more and more aircraft into the air that require less and less training in order to fly. Basically, the most recent piece of legislation that they've passed says that effectively, if it has 4 seats or less in it, if an aircraft has 4 seats or less, you need a driver's license to fly it. Have you seen the way these people who have driver's licenses drive? If it has 4 seats or less, you're a pilot now if you have a driver's license and a few hours to show that you know how to work the controls. And they're just putting it out there. And now you put that out there. How many people are actually going to take advantage of it? Quite a few. While in the same breath, he's talking about we're still thousands of air traffic controllers short on flying. Oh, what are those things called? Oh, yeah, airplanes, Sean. Aeroplanes, dude. You don't have enough air traffic controllers to keep the planes safely in the air. And you just decided that, oh, we're just going to go ahead and implement new policy that says that you only need a driver's license to fly a helicopter in the city and get from place to place because these things are so safe. By the way, they're not that safe. Look up eVTOLs. Look that up on YouTube. Look up eVTOL crash. And you're going to see something that should scare the shit out of you. Okay? Do a Google image search for that, eVTOL crash. They're not ready. The technology's not there. And so, but it hardly even matters, okay? The companies that make these eVTOLs are not the companies to look for. I put quite a bit of time into this. It's so boring. It's not even really worth your time until you're ready to go down a rabbit hole. Sean Duffy's home state, Wisconsin, doesn't have any eVTOL manufacturers that I can tell. So I was a little surprised. Digging a little deeper, though, I come to discover that the infrastructure, the companies that make the infrastructure for recharging eVTOLs, because they're mainly electric, or I think they're all electric. That's what the E in eVTOL stands for. The companies for charging, that are making the infrastructure for charging these eVTOLs are based out of his home state. Bingo. Here we go. And then they're also the same companies, one in particular, that are building the infrastructure that Amazon and IKEA and all of these distribution companies would be using to charge up their drones so that they can deliver packages. Bingo, here we go. They can't get the financing and the investment and the testing and the research and development to implement this countrywide electric charging stations to charge Jeff Bezos' drones until they convince people that we're all getting flying cars. And now all of a sudden, everybody can have a flying car. All you need is a driver's license and a hope and a prayer, and apparently not much worry that you and your loved ones, you and your wife and kids might just fall out of the sky. Look up eVTOL crash. It'll put the fear of this into you. We are not in a good place right now.
The last administration, they knew this, Maria, and they didn't do a damn thing to fix it, right? Pete Buttigieg was running for president as opposed to doing his job and making sure that we got our air traffic control system modernized and functioning. And so,
did you see that? Did you see his eyes? Let me go back here. Fuck this guy. Watch his face as he makes this claim. Watch his face as he makes this claim.
Last administration, they knew this, Maria, and they didn't do a damn thing to fix it, right? Pete Buttigieg was running for president as opposed to doing his job and making sure that we got our air traffic control system modernized and functioning. And so we're 3,000 controllers short.
Sean, Pete Buttigieg didn't get your job until after he lost the election. Hire a Fox News host to go on Fox News and sell your agenda. Can it walk that back there, Sean? Pete Buttigieg was not running for president. Pete Buttigieg lost months before he was tapped to become the Secretary of Transportation. And oh, by the way, it was a full-time enough job for Pete Buttigieg that he didn't have time to moonlight as the administrator of NASA. Anyway, that's all I'm going to play with that because it's too disheartening. But this is where we are. Like I said, we can choose to get disheartened by this, by NASA deciding that they're going to surrender, or we can decide that we're going to take an opportunity. We can look at it and say, thank you. Let us move on to the next phase. As heartbreaking as it is for me to think that NASA is now in decline, and it does, I will say that NASA's legacy has always been a little bit marred by the fact that we spent all this money and all this time doing important stuff, and it is important stuff. And it's not an either or situation. It's a false dichotomy to say it has to be the one or the other. But while we were doing that and investing in STEM research and STEM fields and creating industry and creating a thriving economy with technology that all of us use every day. Every day you use technology that was produced by NASA and the Department of Energy and etc. These, while at the same time, we have people go hungry. We have people who don't have adequate health care. There are lots of policy initiatives that we could be more concerned about, and that could be at any point in time more pressing than whether or not we are investing in space exploration, whether or not we are doing these things. And that's me saying that, as you guys know, I'm very passionate about space exploration. I'm very passionate about science. We could be doing better in a lot of aspects that aren't as sexy as landing on the moon and getting an international space station, these amazing space shuttle launches, and so on and so forth. And but along the way, what we have come to discover is that science is power. Real science is power. And that when the world sees that we do real science, they have respect for it, and they come to rely on us for it. And maybe there is something to say for the fact that America, being the country that leads the way and all that, we got too big a head about it. And maybe it wasn't what's in everybody's best interest. Maybe this is the time. Maybe it is the time where America begins to decline. I hate to say that way. It feels bad. It feels bad to me as an American. But maybe the time has come for the ESA to step up. Maybe the time has come for China to step up. China has been spending more and more of their economy every year on space exploration. This may now finally be the time for President Xi to stand up and say, all you people of the world who like to criticize me and criticize what I do, and we do, and there's lots to criticize. Maybe it's time for him to stand up and say, but guess what? The Americans faltered, the Americans stepped back, the Americans lost a step, and we're all suffering for it. So now China's going to step up into the role. They are the single space agency that is nearest to us in spending. They also are, frankly, in terms of technology, probably the most advanced space agency in the world, apart from NASA. And they've benefited from NASA, as the whole world has and should have. But they have brilliant people. And it's not going to take long for them to show that this was the biggest geopolitical strategic mistake this administration will make this year. Maybe. There's still time. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Time will tell. Personally, my greatest hope is that we will find a way as private citizens to step up and say, we're not going to just go like that. This was never about NASA as a government agency. This wasn't even about us as Americans. Sure, we did the pomp and the flair and planted the flag on the moon, which wasn't exactly planned. There's a famous story about I think it's Apollo 11. Apollo 11, they had a little mutiny where they planted a was it 11 or was it? Yeah. Where they planted well, anyways, they had a mutiny where they put a little sculpture on the moon. You're not supposed to do that. And it was a little spaceman. It was a metal spaceman. And they left it there on the moon as a memorial of all of their fallen brothers in the space program, the men who died in space. And it was supposed to be a tribute to the fact that we came here as Americans because our taxpayers paid for it. But we came to the moon for exactly the reason that was on the plaque. This was the plaque that they were supposed to plant on the moon as a goodwill gesture. They forgot. They forgot to put it up on the moon, put it on a nice place. And it was this, this picture with the planet Earth, and then it had like naked men and women there so that you could see we are humans, blah, blah, blah. And then on it said, on this date, 1969, men from the planet Earth came to the moon. We came in peace for all mankind. Maybe that was too much. Maybe that was so much hopium. Maybe it wasn't even true. But sometimes a symbol like that if people believe it going forward, it shapes what a movement bigger than the people in the craft, the people in the agency, the people at the time ever knew. Because NASA did go forward to become a great force for peace in the world. And yes, that meant calling ourselves out a lot. That meant calling out our own government. And should they be doing that with the tax dollars you and I paid for as a taxpayer in this country? Hell yes. Hell yes. That's what that is for. That's what that should be for. Breaks my heart to think of how they surrendered it that easy. It breaks my heart. We need something to hope for. We need something bigger than the petty concerns of small-minded nations. That's me. Sean Duffy, abandon this, man. Stand up. Will this clip get to Sean Duffy? I doubt it. Shall we try? Sean Duffy, my name is Joe Rollins. I'm First Herald of the Church of Korihor, spiritual community for godless people. And I got a message for you. You grow the fuck up. Will you stand up for something for once in your damn life? Could you stand up for the fact that NASA was supposed to be a force for good in the world and not just an opportunity for you to bloviate and suck up to Donald Trump? He is only a man. That is not me making a political statement. That is me making a factual statement. He is only a man and not a particularly bright one. And yes, he exacts revenge on people. But people, when those people include Michael, or not Michael Bolton, is that your real name? What's Bolton's first name? When that includes political actors who have been cowards their whole lives, then decide to stand up and tell him, you can raid my house, you can take my job, you can prosecute me, but I'm not going to back down. I'm going to stand up for what's right. Sean Duffy, this man can't be president again. You know that. Not according to the Constitution. How many years do you have to put up with this? If for once in your life you stood up and said, I'm not going to dismantle America's political advantage in the world, if nothing else. If it can't be about science, make it about strategy. This is bad strategy. You're giving it up. You've surrendered space. You have surrendered, sir. I know maybe Donald Trump has you convinced that you're winning. You just lost. You just threw it away. You can stop this thing. You can put a stop to it. Insist that they spend the money. Go back and fight for the money. But even if not that, at least stop hemorrhaging. At least stop the brain drain. And at least make a commitment to keep the basic core services that NASA has built alive up until this point. And if corporate interests don't like it, they can go sit on a duck. Because you are in a unique opportunity, Mr. Duffy, Secretary, Administrator Duffy. You have a chance to do something good in the world. Don't throw it away. Don't throw NASA away. And if you do, the hell kind of American are you? That's my feelings. Those of you who are here for Luminary Council, we've been trying to get that started by 9 o'clock, but as you can see, I have used our time tonight for that to rant. Maybe I'm taking out on you guys some of the stress I'm under. So if that's the case, I apologize for that. But I have put the link to Luminary Council, which is where we meet and talk for a few minutes after the broadcast and talk about the ambitions of the Church of Korihor. I will put it in the chat again here in case somebody wants to join us. Hope that people do join us. And maybe I can, while we wait here, maybe I can figure out a way to show you guys something kind of fun and cool. We have something better to show than what we than just this angry rant. You guys know that I use Suno, right, to make our hymns. I have this one. Try to figure out how I could play this for you guys. I'm going to show this to you. I'm not sure that this is ready for prime time. Yeah, but we're going to do it anyways. You guys want to hear a cool new hymn while we wait to see if people want to join us? I put the StreamYard link in there in case people want to join me for a quick conversation and talking about the future of the Church of Korihor. In the meantime, here, let me show you what this, show you a screen here. What am I doing? Share screen. Entire screen with audio. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me still. This has been like a weird thing. Sometimes this is working, sometimes it's not working. Okay. This is a song we may or may not go live with. It's called Sky Daddy Issues. We needed another song similar to Lick My Cupcake. There are like multiple versions of this. I'm just going to play one of the more recent ones. Oh, here, maybe we'll play the new one. Play the new one. This one with the when it has this pink dot, that means I haven't listened to it yet. Let's listen to this new one. If it's not as good as the other one, we'll bail.
Mama, damn it, Mama put Daddy on the phone. Yes, I light the match, then walk away. Bad girl coming to lead good boys astray. No, up and down throughout the valley. Must be pretty good, this good time, Sally. The God you fear isn't near. Hey, eyes up here. Oh,
It's not as good. I'm sorry. We're gonna bail. This other one is really, really good. I want to play this one. I want to play it again. I've listened to this maybe 100 times in the last like 3 days. So usually what I'll do is I'll develop a song. I'll walk away and come back to it a few hours later and see if I still like it. Then I'll put it on ice for like a day or two. And then I'll be like, and if I come back and listen to it again, I'm like, no, this is still good, man. This is still good. Then we start to implement it on the website and YouTube Shorts and so forth. So anyways, this is Sky Daddy Issues. We're going to start back at the beginning. Here we go.
Mama, damn it, Mama, put Daddy on the phone. Yes, I light the match, then walk away. Bad girl coming to lead good boys astray. Known up and down throughout the valley. Must be pretty good, this good time, Sally. The God you fear isn't near. Hey, eyes up here. If I do it for attention, guess I'm good. Good at what I do. Do I have your attention? Look at that. Sky Daddy's too. Jezebel on the prowl. Potiphar's wife can look. Not the first Eve to go in your book. Call me Delilah, Mary Magdalene. Remember that your book was written by men. Is heaven fair? Take Mama there. I have paid the devil fare. If I do it for attention, guess I'm good. Good at what I do. Do I have your attention? Look at that. Sky Daddy's too. Oh, he has a plan. Did it give me ADD? A nasty and flow, or just double D's? Does he care that I like math? We're home, ec and cheer, all that my plan has. Oh, Daddy, stop. I don't blame you. Sure, you weren't around. We all have work to do. Learn the birds and bees in Sunday school. Too late to feel bad. This is bigger than you. If I do it for attention, guess I'm good. Good at what I do. Oh, do I have your attention? Look at that. Sky daddies too. Got your attention, daddy. Mama.
Anyway, it's just for fun. Anyways, I've enjoyed this, you guys. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Non-Zero Chance. Don't forget, we're out here trying to get this asteroid Alma and knock his punk ass out of orbit. And, chances are, maybe the closest we'll get is we'll buy some telescopes and show people that you can look up at the stars and see our universe right here from on the surface of planet Earth, and participate in helping what remains of NASA while it remains to track these near-Earth objects. Because frankly, though some people in significant positions of power may not care that these space rocks could fall on any of us at any point in time and cause death on an unprecedented scale. That's because they're waiting for Jesus to come back, and fire and brimstone falling from the sky is their best hope. That's their hope. That's their dream. They've been waiting on it. It takes godless people to do the right thing. I'll be in the studio for a while. Anybody wants to join me, I'll give it another 10-15 minutes and show you some pretty cool stuff. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on Sunday for Godless Sermons, where you definitely don't want to miss it, 9 a.m. This Sunday, because there I am going to unveil some of the cool new features of what we're doing, and things are getting exciting. So I'll see you then. Until then, my friends, flash bright.